परमात्मने नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम श्री जगद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। Tomorrow is a great day for the followers of Sanatana Dharma and those belonging to Vedic culture. Tomorrow is one of the most sacred dates in the history of Vedic culture and Sanatana Dharma, because the most shining and luminous entity in flesh and blood who ever appeared on this sacred land of Bharat, none was higher, none was superior than that of Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya. Tomorrow is the birthday of the great world teacher, world master, revered Adi Shankaracharya. On a personal note also, it's a great occasion for me. I'm a Paramhansa sannyasi belonging to the Shnami sannyasi Sampradaya founded by Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya. So, my millions and billions and trillions of salutations at the lotus feet of Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya. Imagine the history of India had Adi Shankaracharya not descended, not appeared on this planet in the 8th century. What would have been the history and geography of current India? Very difficult to imagine that. Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya is widely regarded as the savior of Sanatana Dharma, protector and custodian of Vedic culture. But today, after long reflection, I have decided to speak on a very relevant, burning dimension of Adi Shankaracharya and his contribution and his philosophy. So, topic of today's talk, and I have decided deliberately, may not look at spiritual, transcendental, the topic I am going to speak about is non-dual philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya and global peace. Advaita Vedanta of Adi Shankaracharya and global peace. You may wonder what connection the transcendental metaphysical philosophy of non-duality propounded by Adi Shankaracharya might have in today's modern times of conflict, war, communal discord, international warfare. Any philosophy in the world loses its meaning if it ceases to guide, illumine the path of the followers of that particular philosophy. In last 20-30 years, particularly, two major challenges have emerged on the global scale. The mankind is facing two major problems, and they appear to be insurmountable because they are not local or national in nature. The first is the challenge of ecological security, planetary safety. And the second, but much more visible to an average human rational mind, is the challenge of terrorism and warfare among nations. So what? This philosophy of non-duality propounded by Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya have. To illumine the path of resolution, solution of these two major problems confronting mankind. To understand that, and you would need a little bit of understanding of the philosophy so that you could understand the relevance and role of that philosophy in the current range of problems plaguing mankind as a family. So before I come to explain its relevance, I would have to briefly explain its fundamentals. The world over, it's a very positive development that world over the philosophers and thinkers and intellectuals have begun looking towards the philosophical, spiritual resources which might hold key to resolution of these problems of the global nature, whether it's a climate change, ecological crisis, problem of terrorism, or interborder, international, regional or national warfares. So, to bring peace on a planetary scale, on the global scale, what are the conditions? What are the requirements? That would depend on our diagnosis of the problem, political, social, cultural, economic dimensions of the crisis. So before we do that, let me briefly explain that philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, non-duality. One of the most fundamental principles of Advaita Vedanta is that truth is one, ultimate reality is one. The source, substratum, and substance of this entire visible universe of diversity is one, that is non-dual. It would be easier for me to put in perspective if I first recite two fundamental verses of Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya, which explain and which consolidated the philosophy of Vedanta as philosophy of absolute monism, non-dual philosophy. Let me briefly bring these two verses before you. श्लोकार्धेन प्रवक्ष्यामि यद्वक्तुं ग्रन्थकोटिभिः ब्रह्म सत्यं जगन्मिथ्या जीवो ब्रह्मैव नापरः। पठन्तु शास्त्राणि यजन्तु देवान् कुर्वन्तु कर्माणि भजन्तु देवता। आत्मैक्यबोधेन विनापि न सिद्ध्यति अन्तसतान्तरेऽपि। The first verse gives the theoretical, philosophical framework of the ultimate reality, universal truth. And the second is about the process, the means and methods whereby we can realize, attain, imbibe that truth. The first sentence goes like this, in simple English. Whatever truth is sought to be described and explained by millions and millions and millions of scriptures and books, I am going to describe in just half a sentence. Just half a sentence, I am going to declare that truth, and that truth is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaivana Paraha. The Brahman, the Supreme Self, is the only truth. The visible world of diversity is illusion, is false. This is the ultimate reality I am declaring in half the sentence. Supreme truth. That is the declaration of Adi Shankara. It is very difficult to find in the entire annals of human history such a bold statement. So, he says that the ultimate truth is nothing but the supreme reality known as self or supreme self or Brahman, or loosely known as God also in some philosophies, some religious practices. But that is a one, non-dual, indivisible, attributeless, nameless reality. That alone is truth. The visible, ephemeral world is mere illusory, an appearance. It has no reality in truth. So how to realize it? Do we realize it? Every moment we think that my body, my senses, my mind, my intellect, my family, my friends, my lover, my beloved, my friends, my foes, these are the truth. My palace, my house, my wealth, my relatives, my country, my culture, my religion. We think this is the ultimate truth. So how to realize that? Those who don't understand philosophy, and I find ridiculous, at least in India, very educated people, professors, they make fun. Oh, Shankara says, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This world is illusion. They don't understand what he says. The recent researches in the field of quantum physics, and for which David Bohm received Nobel Prize, I think in 1970 or 69, and after that there have been a lot of more developments. They almost confirm the same reality what Upanishads had, and the sages and seers of Upanishad had declared thousands of years ago, and what Adi Shankara consolidated, systematized, and presented very powerfully as a systematic philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. Now, the quantum mechanics, quantum physicists are confirming by and large that this entire material world and the world of matter is nothing but formless energy that is indivisible. The truth is not subject neutral. So how to realize that? That supreme reality that he won, there is not two. That is illustrated in the second verse that is there from Vivek Chudamani. That again is so bold a statement, and that was given at a time, if you know the time and climb of Adi Shankara, the kind of problems India was facing, there was onslaught from every side. The hypocrisy in the religious practices, the assault of Buddhism and Jainism, the predominance of rituals, karma kanda, the entire Sanatana Dharma, Hindu religion, Vedic culture was so much dominated by rituals, and philosophy was almost absent. In other words, to put simply, Gyan Khanda was almost nowhere to be seen in the practical life of Indian society in 8th century. Only Karma Kanda was there in the name of religion, religiosity, in the name of faith. At that point of time, widely regarded as incarnation of Lord Shankara, Shiva, Adi Shankara appears. At that point of time, there were 84 in Hindu. If you say Hindu religion or Sanatana Dharma, it was divided into 84 sects, and each sect had its own head, and all of them were predominantly commanded and controlled and dominated by rituals. It was a pathetic state of India at that point of time. And of course there was assault of Buddhism, Jainism, and the decay from within, where the most sublime dimension of Indian philosophy and metaphysics was nowhere in day-to-day life. I dare say now, even in this century, I find personally, after close scrutiny and examination of the state of religiosity and religious practices in this country after becoming a sannyasi, the same morass and the past has returned back again. Rituals, superficial practices in the name of religion, they are necessary, they are good, they are relevant for some people, but they cannot dominate. They are not the quintessence of Indian culture. They are not the supreme guiding principles of Indian culture which made it world Vishwa Guru and great power in history. So that was the background against which Adi Shankara appeared, and he began to challenge. First he realized, I am not going in his biography and details, most of you must be knowing it. By the age of 8, at the age of 8, he leaves his home, the birthplace in Ernakulam, current Ernakulam district of Kerala. He was born in a Nambudiri Brahmin family. He takes the permission, and you must have heard that story about that permission from the mother. So he starts his journey towards a suitable, most appropriate guru, the master of non-duality, Advaita Vedanta. And he had heard that at that point of time, Acharya Govinda Pad was the only true master of Advaita Vedanta, whose ashram was located somewhere near Omkareshwar on the banks of Narmada in Madhya Pradesh. He walks on foot That 8-year-old child, he comes and in the cave, Acharya Govindpad was in trance, in meditation. He comes when he asks, child, who are you? That 8-year-old child, his reply to that question is unparalleled in the history of mankind. Forget about India. Nowhere in the history of mankind, from any person in flesh and blood, would utter those things. In mythology you would find those kind of magical things, but it's a real history, not mythology, not story. When he asks, my child, who are you? Then he recites Nirvana Shatakam. It's so dear to me personally. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I will just recite one of that. He introduces himself at the age of 8. Manobodhya hankar chita ninaham nach shrotra jihave nach grana netre nach vyoma bhumir tejo navayuh Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. The child Shankara says, मैं मन बुद्धि अहंकार चित्त नहीं हूँ, मैं आँख कान नाक त्वचा जिह्वा नहीं हूँ, मैं पंच तत्व नहीं हूँ, पंच प्राण नहीं हूँ, सप्त धातु नहीं हूँ, मैं शुद्ध बोध एवं आनंद स्वरूप शिव हूँ, शिव हूँ, शिव हूँ, शिव। चिदानंद रूप शिव हूँ, शिव। मैं वह परम तत्व हूँ। I am that supreme reality. I am not this body. I am not the inner organs, nor the 5 senses of perception, nor 5 senses of action. None of the biochemicals, none of the breaths I am. I am not the 5 fundamental elements. I am of the nature of blissful consciousness, eternal Shiva. The supreme reality of the nature of blissful consciousness, I am. I am supreme reality. I am Shiva. I am non-dual supreme reality of the nature of pure intelligence, eternal bliss, I am. The master was taken aback, couldn't believe that an 8-year-old child, and that was, these 6 verses were his own composition. At that point of time, he had such mastery. In the local Gurukul somewhere in Arunachalam, where he had gone for study, and whatever course was prescribed there for study for 20 years, He had completed in 2 years, and he returned back at home at the age of 6 or 7. So he had studied by then itself the Upanishads, etc. So then, very happily, Acharya Govind Pad accepts him as his disciple, instructs him, and after very few years, he is declared as Acharya. He starts teaching there in that ashram. At the age of 16 years, he wrote the Sharirak Bhashya, Brahma Sutra. Even today, best of the philosophers, university philosophers of Vedanta start sweating when they have to study Brahma Sutra. Most abstruse philosophy, and whose commentary Adi Shankara managed to write at the age of 16. Today that commentary is the most popular one because it firmly establishes, consolidates the non-dual nature of reality, truth. In fact, those 500 verses containing Brahma Sutra were composed by Badarayan, popularly known as Veda Vyasa, but it was amenable to and open to interpretation by anybody and everybody as they wished. But Adi Shankara gave a solid background of non-dual philosophy, which was also helped by the Mandukya Karika written by his grand guru Acharya Gaudapad. Though Adi Shankara is widely regarded as founder of Advaita Vedanta, but that is not full truth. His grand guru was who laid down the fundamental and systematic principles in the commentary on Mandukya Upanishad through Karika, upon which also Adi Shankara has written a commentary. But of course, Jagat Guru gave a systematic, exhaustive, consistent form to this entire philosophy of Advaita Vedanta by writing commentaries on what they are popularly known as Prasthantrayi, that is Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. These three commentaries, it is said that were written by Adi Shankara in a cave where I personally had the divine pleasure to visit. Just I get such a divine vibration by just remembering that place. In Badrinath, just 2 kilometers up on the China-India border, in Mana village, is that Vyas Gufa, where Ved Vyas had composed and compiled 4 Vedas and 18 Puranas. And the next to that cave is Ganesh Gufa. Lord Ganesh was writing. So Adi Shankara stayed in that Gufa, cave of Ved Vyasa. And the moment I entered in that Gufa, fortunately at that last year when I had visited that place, I just felt as if I am getting absorbed. And there were not too many people. Some of my sannyasi friends were also there, but they didn't know these kind of things. So I humbly requested that fellow who was taking care of that cave that please allow me to meditate for a while here. He allowed me. I just fell down and I was not feeling like getting up. I got in such a trance, the energy, the vibrations. Just imagine where Vyasa had written Vedas, where Adi Shankara, at that place, exact place I am talking about, in Mana village near Badrinath, where Adi Shankara had written the commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra and Upanishads. It was just unbelievable vibration, divine vibration there. So, after those initial intellectual walks and commentaries, his Digvijay begins, and that he had philosophical debate with each one of the 84 sects within the Hindus, which were predominantly ritualistic, suffering from hypocrisy, perverted practices. But Adi Shankara knew that he didn't mean to humiliate any of them. His entire purpose was so great, so noble. He was firmly established in the truth. He knew the truth. So he would invite them for debate, and in a very humble way, he would debate with them, and with not the lung power, but the force of truth, he will end up making the opponent surrender and accept the truth that Adi Shankara was trying to propagate. And they became, all of them used to begin to become disciples. The first 4 disciples of Adi Shankara, one of them, most of you must have heard about, the final debate with Mandan Mishra of Mithilanchala. So, once he was defeated, he became disciple of Adi Shankara. Though he was very old age, very renowned. He was the president at that point of time of original Kashi Vidyat Parishad. Mimanshak, he was the greatest Mimanshak and Mimanshak scholar, Mandan Mishra. But once he realized the truth in Adi Shankara's debates, he became his disciple. He is known as Sureshwaracharya. The other 3 disciples, prominent disciples of Adi Shankara are Hastamalkacharya, Trotakacharya and Padmapadacharya. All these 4 disciples were assigned the responsibility of the 4 mutts he established in the 4 corners of the country. So, the greatest contribution of Adi Shankara was to bring in prominence the value of non-dual philosophy, that perennial, eternal, universal philosophy. Advaita Vedanta is not a philosophy for any particular faith or religion or time and climb. It's a universal philosophy. It doesn't address to any particular community. It doesn't ask for any belief or anything. No, nothing. It's a pure science. It's a rational philosophy. It's a global, eternal, immortal philosophy. Everyone finally will come to the conclusion. And the foresight of Adi Shankara is being felt today, that entire humanity, the kind of problems it's suffering, has begun to realize that unless and until there is a central philosophy which appeals to each and every human being on this planet, which concerns, which accommodates, which relates to each and every atom of this cosmos, the religious, dogmatic, fanatic philosophies of the world are going to destroy the world. The burning problem of terrorism is before you as an illustration. The warfare. So, before I come to the issue of global role and relevance of Adi Shankara's philosophy, let me briefly tell you that I was talking about what the philosophical and theoretical part. So, how to realize that? Two verses I had recited. The second verse says that, and that is what he did and convinced in all the debates during his debates across the country, that truth can't be realized by any number of pious deeds, any number of charity, any number of good deeds, any number of worship. He literally says, you continue to study millions and millions of scriptures for billions and billions of incarnations and ages. These are his words. Kotibhi na siddhyate koti shatantarepi. The truth can't be realized in the 100 lives of Brahma. A Brahma's one life is millions of years of our lives. So literally billions and billions of incarnations and ages even are spent, and you try to seek to realize truth through study of scriptures and books, or through performing yajnas. Yajna was the predominant mode of worship during the time of Adi Shankara. All the 84 sects of Hindus were always busy in performing one or the other yajna. That was the Mimamshak's job, the rituals. He says, keep performing these yajnas for billions and billions of years. Keep worshipping all the deities and gods for millions and billions of years. These are not going to lead you to the realization of truth. The unity between the individual self and the Supreme Self is not going to be realized by any of these. The unity and identity between the individual self and the Supreme Self can be realized only and only by knowledge and realization that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. That Brahman, the Supreme Self alone, is the supreme reality, non-dual reality, source substratum and substance of the entire universe, and this entire visible universe is illusory. That could be realized only through knowledge, identity between the individual self and Supreme Self. After the realization of that truth, there is no duality. Here is the catch for world role and relevance of non-duality and Adi Shankara. If I, as pure consciousness, self-effulgent, self-illumined, self, and self, one self as the self of all, am the only reality, then who I am going to fight with? There is none. I dare to speak about this subject because I am a Paramahansa sannyasi, and before that, even for 20 years almost, I have been trying to do deep study of that philosophy in the context of the modern problems. The root of all conflict, now listen carefully, here is the practical dimension, the current political, ecological, economic, social turmoil plaguing the mankind. Here is the diagnosis and prognosis for you, entire mankind. I am addressing each and every sister and brother across the globe. I alone, I am addressing myself. My ultimate reality as self-effulgent consciousness has manifested as all human beings, all animal kingdom, all the plant life, the sun and the moon and the galaxies and the stars and the rivers and mountains and the infinite oceans, all are my own manifestations. I am the non-dual self. I am Brahman. I am Atman. I am Paramatman. I am not this body. I am not the senses. The body is perishable. This body was born at certain point of time. It will die at certain point of time. But I as self, Atman, was never born and I will never die. I am cause of all causes. There is no higher and superior power in the universe. I am the supreme power and I alone govern the entire range of infinite cosmoses. For this realization alone, this Dashanami Sannyas Sampradaya of Adi Shankara was started. And these 4 mutts were supposed to be the center of this truth. That truth is one of the nature of pure consciousness, but the same truth has manifested as varied, diverse universe. For propagation, for preaching and implementation of this great philosophy, Adi Shankara set up 4 mutts. And Dashanami Sannyas, most of the sannyasis of today in India belong to that. But it's so sad to tell before you, now I can say, I find hardly even 1% of those sannyasi believe in or practice in non-duality and Advaita Vedanta. They have resorted back to, and they all have been initiated in that. They are not Vaishnava or Shaiva. I could have imagined. All the Dashanami Sampradaya sannyasis belong to Adi Shankara order. Adi Shankara founded this system of sannyasa, are supposed to preach, propagate and practice nothing but Advaita Vedanta, but go and find out how many of them are studying, preaching or practicing Vedanta. Again they have fallen back to same morass that Adi Shankara has taken out this country 1200 years ago. Because they don't get money, donation, name, fame by Advaita Vedanta. That's problem. But that's a side issue, that's not fundamental issue at the moment. What I am going to bring before you today, the global relevance of the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. The world over, one tragedy I told you that those sannyasis which were initiated And for last 1200 centuries, this system was carried over to preach and propagate and implement this philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. They are not, majority of them are not doing so, some of them are doing. But in the rest of the world, the other countries, European countries and America, Vedanta has become so popular and authentic interest. And they have begun to think the role and relevance of Advaita Vedanta of Adi Shankaracharya in the modern age, given the kind of problems, whether social, cultural, political, ecological, are confronting mankind today. They have begun to do and explore the role of this philosophy. So now let me tell you, I'll come to the center point of the issue. I am asking a question and you ask the question and you will get an answer within yourself. Do you know what is the root of all conflict? And conflict, I am not talking only in terms of national conflict, the border conflict. Conflict within even two members of a family, conflict between two families, conflict between neighborhoods, conflict between two communities. All kind of conflict or warfare arise. And here I am going to declare that fundamental principle of Vedanta in Upanishads. All fear and insecurity arise out of sense of duality. Sense of Advaita alone is the root of all insecurity and fear. If I don't see anybody as distinct or different from me, other than me, am I going to be afraid of anybody? Ask this question. You don't need to believe any philosophy, but you ask yourself, these are the universal scientific principles. You need to have honesty to understand it. Rational Vedanta is a purely rational philosophy. You experiment for yourself. In fact, when I am going to conclude today, I will practice it. How to realize that Advaita. So, your illusion that there is diversity, I am this body and there is another body, there are other people. This is the root ignorance, beginningless nations, which leads to all the problems in society, in the world, on the planet. The sense of duality alone is bondage. The sense of spiritual or religious or political or cultural, all problems could be analyzed by just this one principle. If I firmly believe and understand that I alone, as Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham, of the nature of blissful self, I am that supreme reality called Shiva. There is none other than me. Am I going to be afraid of anyone? Am I going to be jealous of anyone? Am I going to feel insecure from anyone? Either human being or a particular community or a particular country? No. The fears always comes from the other, the sense of other, the sense of second. all fear, all insecurity, all conflict, all warfare, all jealousy presuppose the sense of otherness, the sense of duality of the existence. So the next point is how to realize that. You would agree with me that the warfare between two nations or two communities or two religious groups don't arise in a vacuum. The basic and primary unit of peace is not country or culture or globe, but the individual. Individuals constitute the globe. Individuals constitute the family. Individuals constitute society. Individuals constitute particular country. Individuals constitute particular religions and faiths and denomination. The restless, violent, trapped into ignorance of duality, individuality is the root of all conflict and warfare and suffering in the entire history of mankind. Here is the conclusion and inference on the basis of Advaita Vedanta. All exploitation, you see, all the secular philosophy, I would say, whether Nietzsche or Karl Marx or Kant or liberal philosophers, all these philosophies, if you put together, the source of, they are trying to, and they are in their own way, an effort to bring about justice, equality, among the interbehavioral relationships of the humans. If I believe that I am that Shiva, I am that self, and I alone have manifested in this entire universe, and if I am a ruler of a country, earlier they used to be kings. Today they are elected representatives in the democratic process. But that doesn't make any difference. If I am in a position of control and command and influence, either as a president or prime minister or a CEO of a transnational corporations, you people would know better than me, the CEOs and heads of many of transnational corporations are much more powerful than prime ministers and presidents of many small countries. So I am talking about anyone who is very influential in material sense, either through the might of the wealth or through the political power or through military power, whatever. But if you and that person or that particular society really believes in the principle of Advaita Vedanta, that the ultimate truth is one, we are all visible as separate human beings or animal kingdom or plant life, are just manifestations, bubbles in the infinite ocean of, technically speaking, in Vedanta it's called the various waves, the bubbles and foams in the infinite ocean of consciousness. So my ultimate nature, if is that of the infinite, pure, blissful consciousness, self-contained and all-powerful, is it possible for me to exploit anybody or remain mute witness to exploitation of anybody? If I am a true Advaita Vedanti, preaching and practicing the non-duality in every sphere of my life, practical life I'm talking about. I am not talking about that transcendental departure after death or the transcendental realization, but that Advaita Vedanta is not to be practiced and preached just by the monks and sannyasis for their moksha and liberation alone. Each and every one, ordinary human beings with their families, with their farms and factories and offices, they are all human beings. They also constitute society. If they truly believe that the truth is one, the supreme reality is one, and all of us in our hearts, as Lord Krishna says, that supreme reality is present right within our hearts, and that supreme reality is of the nature of bliss consciousness. Entire mass of nectarine bliss is within me. The infinite ocean of ambrosial love is within me. I am the living definition of beauty and bliss. Then am I going to run after, beg before anybody, or exploit anybody, or do injustice to anybody? Impossible. That is the definition of Suraj and Ramarajya, what my grand guru, Param Pujyapad Karpatri Ji Maharaj was trying to propagate by, he founded Ramarajya Parishad. It was not a mythological concept. In Ramarajya, that principle governing the lives of human beings is that of the fundamental principles of non-duality, fundamental principles governing the Advaita Vedanta philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya, where truth is one and it manifests and appears as varied and diverse. Therefore, it would become impossible to do injustice to anybody. It would become impossible for hate myself. Do you hate yourself? Ask this question. Some temporary particular act of yours might be, in your own opinion, not acceptable to you, and then temporarily you say that I hate myself for this particular act. But even that statement proves that you love yourself, the self within. So similarly, no one hates himself or herself because you have identified your horizon of reality with this body and individual personality, so you love yourself. But if you expand the horizon of your consciousness to entire cosmos, that as infinite blissful consciousness and pure awareness, an infinite energy field of awareness alone I am, and that is my ultimate reality, that is my true nature, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, then it becomes impossible for me, in talking technical modern computer language, I become disabled. The button disabled is pressed, and therefore I would not be in a position to hate anybody, exploit anybody, humiliate anybody, or allow injustice to be meted with anybody where I am present. because I alone am present in that family or friend of mine. Take for example, do you allow and would you tolerate if somebody attacks your children or somebody attacks your parents? You don't, you fight out. Because you have expanded the horizon of your identity to your family also. If you have not expanded, then you fight with your family. Husband is fighting with the wife, wife is fighting with the husband, children are fighting with their parents, parents are fighting with the children. This is all the function of the horizon of consciousness. The narrower the horizon of consciousness, the more nasty a human being and your behavior is going to be. And the broader the horizon of your consciousness about the identity of self, the greater a human being, nobler a human being you are going to become. That becomes possible only by actual practice of Advaita Vedanta in day-to-day life. Whatever pursuit of and profession you are professing or seeking or practicing, doesn't matter whether you are a teacher or a bureaucrat or a police officer or a farmer or intellectual, it doesn't matter, or a businessman. Do whatever you do, but think deeply, realize, think deeply that this body is not your supreme reality. This body is such an temporary appearance. You have been born and you are going to die after some time. Is there something eternal and immortal within myself? Yes. And that eternal and immortal self of the nature of consciousness and bliss that is illumining, I am speaking through what? And you sitting there are listening through what? That which enables me to speak, and speak what? And think what? That reality is self. That supreme reality is called pure consciousness, pure awareness. Right now, right here. It's impossible for me to utter a single word without being illumined by that self which is there in every single cell of my body. Aho nuchitra mayayam tat vishwa vimohini sarvanga prodhamapyatma yayatmana pashyati. In Yoga Vasishta Maharamayana, Valmiki, Guru Vasishta says to Rama, this Maya, it's such a strange power of the illusory Maya that the truth, the eternal truth, the Almighty Self is present in each and every single cell of your body from top to bottom. Yet, you don't see it because of the welling and projecting power of Maya, illusion. So, I hate somebody or I treat someone as the other only because of illusion. If I realize my own true nature, the self-effulgent reality within me which is illumining my every single word, every single thought, every single act of mine is being illumined, enabled and facilitated by none other than self, which is eternal, immortal, almighty, omnipotent, omnipresent and omniscient reality. And that reality of mind by nature is infinite bliss. No bliss, no love, no beauty exists beyond that bliss nature of mind. And I do all kind of injustice, all exploitation, all hatred, all warfares are inflicted, all crimes are committed, all murders are committed in one or the other way, just for a drop of some indirect or direct happiness of yours, which is ignorance, illusion. There is no way you can kill anybody else, because the anybody else you are thinking doesn't exist. You alone exist in the entire cosmos. If you exploit somebody else, you are exploiting yourself. If you hate anybody, you are hating yourself in reality. If you do injustice with anybody, you end up doing injustice with yourself only. Because other doesn't exist. It is illusion of yours. It is ignorance of yours, which tells you that you are you, this particular body of name and form, the other is other, you have nothing to do with that. That illusion, misunderstanding is source of all warfare, all iniquity in the world, all injustice and exploitation. The desire to dominate by one person over another person, or one community by another community, or one country over another community, arises out of ignorance and illusion. Once you realize your true nature, who are you going to dominate over? You are the most powerful. The weak people want to dominate. The political class accepts. Listen carefully. In the annals of human history, all the politicians, in whatever shape and form they have existed, and they do exist, those who become rulers or want to govern and fate and fortune maker of a particular country, all of them are under illusion. It's another matter when there were some, not only some, there used to be many rulers, great kings and emperors, benevolent emperors, what Aristotle calls philosopher kings, the concept in Greek philosophy. If you are a student of political science, if you have studied Plato and Aristotle, the same concept here also. Great kings who used to understand their true nature. So they were kings because they were hereditary kingship. So they will continue to rule, but they didn't play the game of ego. The current democratic political dispensation, without exception, is nothing but naked and brute manifestation and display of ego. Howsoever great a president or prime minister in this world is in any country, I am sure there are variations. There will be some less brute, I would say, lesser evil. But politicians by nature are the most perverted species on the planet. To dominate their personal vested interests, they create artificial divides. And this has happened from thousands of years. And the humanity, ordinary human beings, have to suffer. You see, this Sachidananda, before he became sannyasi, worked for about 30 years on poverty, deprivation, hunger. Now I am not aware about the latest data, but broad data also I do have. Till 6-7 years ago, when there used to be questions in assemblies and parliament on my statements, I formally had told, and I used to write, that almost every third Indian citizen was sleeping hungry. Almost 1/3 to 1/4 of the hungry people on this planet were Indians. There is some reduction in this last 4, 5, 6 years. That's but natural. But you remember and imagine over 1 billion people across the globe yet suffer from severe malnutrition. They don't have food to eat. The world has so much of money to spend on latest warfare gadgets. The world and political dispensations of the world and the political leadership has all the money to buy all the arms to kill the human beings, but they don't have money to feed their own compatriots or the humans. All this happens out of ignorance. Ignorance is represented by ego and mind. I am superior, I have to rule over somebody else. This obscenity and this obscene politics in the world is at the root of wars, whether it's World War I or World War II, or the current spate of flashpoints you see in the Middle East, or between North Korea and USA, or USA and China, or USA and Soviet Russia, or in different parts of the world, nearer home, India, China, India, Pakistan. Or I am not going into the merit of all these things, who is right or who is wrong, but it's such a shame on entire humanity. It's a blot on the face of mankind that you don't have money and food to feed the living human beings, and you have money to spend to kill the human beings. You have destroyed the entire planet. Mother Earth is crying out. The glaciers have begun to melt. The low-lying countries in the coastline areas are running the risk of getting extinguished and disappear. For last 2-3 weeks, I am here in Delhi. I am just suffocating every moment. There is no fresh air, no breath. I feel like sometimes just running out. Howsoever rich you are, whether you are a prime minister or the richest person, you live in Mumbai or Delhi, the air is a leveler. Where are you going to get fresh air? In the name of economic development and industrialization and urbanization, we have destroyed the natural resources. That is what Advaita Vedanta, I was telling you, that I alone have manifested as all animal kingdom, as entire universe. If I am going to destroy the rivers, the water bodies, the forests, the animal species, the biodiversity is facing such a serious threat. Why? We have been propelled by our ignorance that no, I am separate, the nature is separate, the other community are separate, I can be rich, I must live comfortable life. Let me kill other people. Let me destroy the livelihoods of other people. Let me destroy the global sink or ozone layer or the atmosphere, the entire climate change politics. This Sachidananda worked for 20 years on climate change. He used to write in international newspapers on the politics governing the climate change and developed countries. The way they have dominated and captured after polluting the entire space, they want the developing countries. Of course, each one of us has the responsibility to preserve Mother Earth, to keep our water bodies fresh. But those who are responsible, who have been selling the idea of economic growth and prosperity, have moral responsibility to first admit the crime they are committing against other fellow humans, against the nature, against the animal kingdom, against the forest, against the biodiversity. If you are going to destroy the atmosphere, the rivers, the entire natural resources, the lands have already been destroyed beyond repair, the productivity is artificially supported by chemical fertilizers and synthetic chemicals which are going and getting deposited in your body, and you are getting terrible diseases and cancers of various kinds. More than half the children in Delhi, Mumbai, their lungs have been damaged beyond repair. How does it happen? It does happen because of Advaita, the devil of Advaita. You are under the ignorance and illusion that you have a separate destiny from the destiny of your fellow humans. That is the greatest illusion. That was the fundamental of Advaita Vedanta. You don't have any separate destiny. And almost 30 years ago, the first book written by a scientist which brought the environmental crisis in bold relief was that titled The Wave of Life. That is essentially Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta says that the entire existence is integrated, every single atom of this entire whole is interrelated to each other atom. The wave of life, written not by mythologists or philosophers, but environmental scientists. Now, for the first time, the scientists realized, and those scientists are part of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, overarching body of the scientists, bureaucrats and technocrats. You know that the wave of life, every single insect is related to every other insect or every other human being. My destiny, my prosperity, my future doesn't exist in isolation. That is what Advaita Vedanta said. Now, once the crisis has come, the environmental crisis confronting the mankind can become an opportunity to transform the fundamental values governing human behavior. It's a warning signal, but the politicians of the world are not prepared. They are not taking the right signals to adjust and begin to live in harmony, in love with each other, in sharing and caring, because we all are one. This difference and distinction and diversity in our life is just illusory, temporary, and appearance. We are bound by that supreme reality that we are source. Our source, substance and substratum is one and the same. That is called the Brahman, the Supreme Self, or God. So, Advaita Vedanta of Adi Shankaracharya is the philosophy if the world, and it is for the entire humanity. It is not addressed to anybody else. It's a science, it's a universal philosophy, it's a rational philosophy. You don't have to accept what I am saying. Adi Shankara says, and the entire Upanishad say, you experiment for yourself. Don't believe me. Your true nature, once you go deep within yourself, at the core of your own existence, there is no duality, there is no other. You and you alone exist as the infinite and pure awareness, energy filled, which is intrinsically blissful. I don't need any bliss from any other external source by killing the animal kingdom, destroying the nature, despoiling the rivers and water bodies. The fundamental values governing our lives have a lot to do with the kind of crisis we are facing, whether the problem of terrorism, the problem of warfare, the obscene amount of national budgets today across the world being spent on procuring armaments, on maintaining armies to kill each other. Why the hell you need these armies? What is better in you other than these brute animals, you either tiger or other animals? They are far better than us. They kill others or attack others for their own survival, but the humans are killing just for fun. When Rome was burning, Nero was enjoying. Nero allowed the burning of the entire city for the fun. That's what we are doing. Don't play with the lives of others, because you end up playing with your own life. There is no other. Once you are hating others, you are hating yourself. Once you exploit others, there is no way you can end up not exploiting yourself. That is what is happening with us. Why we are so miserable? Why we are suffering from hypertension, all sorts of diseases, ever increasing diseases. Even if you are earning huge amount of salary, you are so depressed, so sad on your face, always suffering from host of diseases. What is the meaning of life? It's hell. It's a living hell that an average human being is living, but there is the heaven within yourself. You create that heaven. Each one of us have to take the responsibility to explore the heaven within. Once you explore the heaven within, what Jesus Christ calls the kingdom of God, and what Vedanta calls and Adi Shankara calls the empire of self, they are exactly the same truth they are indicating towards. The words are different. Explore that truth, that empire of self and the kingdom of God within yourself, and that would be possible once you begin to realize that there is no other. Why Jesus Christ is repeatedly saying, love, love all. Love is the most predominant value that Jesus Christ is teaching. What is the meaning of that? That is exactly the same meaning what Adi Shankara is saying and what Upanishads are saying. We are one. Can you hate yourself? Do you hate your children? Even if your children are doing some wrong things, you are so attached to your children. your wife, your husband. So near and dear ones, that is the problem. Once we go within and realize our true nature, we realize that there is no other, there is no difference between me and the entire range of duality and diversity. Every single grass and every single speck of grass on this planet, every single leaf on every single tree on this planet, every insect, every species in the animal kingdom, every human being, the soul, the sun and the moon and the star and the galaxies, every single atom in every single water body, it's me and me alone which has manifested. I alone have manifested. How can I kill or injure or harm or humiliate myself? But the current state of mind is that of ignorance. We are under illusion and ignorance that this body is our true reality, that this finite mortal body is our ultimate truth. That is the illusion under which, and that is the darkness and ignorance which is the root of all the misery even in this physical world, whether the social problems, political conflicts, the poverty, deprivation, lack of health care, lack of sanitation for the majority of poor communities in the world. It's all due to lack of sensitivity caused by our ignorance about our true nature. So, on the eve of the birthday of revered Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya, and I have been deeply reflecting for years and years as to what is the message of Advaita Vedanta for an average human being, even if he or she is not a spiritual person. I have come to the conclusion, and I am not a sannyasi from childhood. I worked for the public issues for 30 years. At the forefront of the issues, global issues, this Sachidananda worked and has thought very deeply as to how those problems, the problems of deprivation, poverty, hunger, malnutrition, warfare, injustice, exploitation, how to end that. And that alone, the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, the philosophy of non-duality, has to be propagated, adopted in our life, first in our own personal life. From the day one you begin the process. I am talking about slightly mundane dimensions of that reality, but before I conclude, I will do a demonstration of 10 minutes how to go deep within to realize your non-dual nature. Once you realize your true nature as Sat Chit Anand, truth absolute, consciousness absolute, and bliss absolute, you cease to be in a position to hate anybody. You cannot exploit anybody. You cannot harm or humiliate anybody. That's why it's called in Upanishads a single self-realized master, and his or her presence in this globe around the planet contributes more than all the richest and noblest persons of the world would be able to contribute to the welfare of the mankind. Therefore, the solution to all the problems of even the material world lie within, not without, within ourselves. Each one of us, you keep practicing whatever faith or religion you are practicing. I have nothing to do. Vedanta doesn't have anything to do. Vedanta is a science. You preach and practice, not a set of beliefs. It's not a belief. It's a science, fundamental universal, cosmic science. So, all of us, and it's my pleasure and my pleasure, the place and pleasure on the occasion of the birth of revered Jagat Guru, to try my best to first realize in full depth and width the non-dual reality, and then propagate it to whosoever is open to or seeking, without any fear or favor, without any self-interest, without any selfishness. I am prepared to spend every single second of my life in any corner of the world. The entire universe is my home. Each one of you are my habitation. I alone am present in each one of you. Whosoever invites, whosoever seeks, whatever small help I can do in realization of your true nature, which alone can solve even the material, physical problems of the world, I would be the most happiest one to help you without any return, expectation of any return. Because I don't expect any return from myself. I am working for myself, I am existing for myself, I am speaking for myself. I am not speaking for anybody else. There is nobody else. I alone exist in each and every heart of every living being and non-living existence. So, before I conclude, if you are interested, I would very simply take you to that process whereby we can realize the true nature of ours. Very simply, it's not so difficult, it's not so abstruse. Given the willpower and honesty, we can do it right now, right here. So, I will do that, and I would request you, if you feel that you should, you could also join me and do that. In my previous lectures, I have already explained that the current problem of our ignorance and ignorance-driven behavior and life is the problem, and that ignorance that I am the body, I am this finite body, and that is my identity, that is the root ignorance. This has to be dispelled. This can be dispelled. I am not going to give detailed lecture on this, but I have given earlier, and in future I will give that in detail. But suffice it today that to dispel that darkness and ignorance of illusory diversity in the external world, let's go deep within ourselves and close your eyes and just try to dissociate yourself from the entire external world of visible duality, the gross world, the physical and material world of duality that so far you have identified as real, including your own body, this entire visible universe, the gross universe, and the gross body of yours and mine. These are all that we think that our true nature. This is the root problem. So what's the solution? That's what I am heading towards. Let's explore. Don't believe my words. Let's explore for ourselves the science, tools and techniques of self-exploration and self-realization given by Jagat Guru Adi Shankara. The text is called Aparokshanubhuti. Direct, personal, immediate experience of the self. Listen the words carefully. What a revolutionary sentence. What the terms, the words itself. Aparokshanubhuti, direct experience of the self. You for yourself realize the true nature of yours, that is the self within. How do you do that? I will do symbolically just one specific Vedantic meditation practice given by none other than Adi Shankaracharya in Aparokshanubhuti. Popularly it's known as Vedantic meditation. It's a fundamentally different from other meditation practices. Very, very fundamental differences from the other practices of meditation. Let me practice that. Let me tell you. Close your eyes and begin to take breath slowly. Breathe in with an idea that the breathe in should be slow and long. It is not a pranayam, just be careful. To those who don't know, they would think that, oh, it's a pranayam, it's not breathing exercise. That is the difference between Adi Shankara and others. It's amazing practice. It would appear as pranayam, but it's a profound meditation technique. In fact, you can do it round the clock. It is not something to be done for half an hour or 1 hour. You can keep doing whatever job you are doing. It can be done in every moment of your life. That is the fundamental difference. That is why the self-realized masters don't bother to do anything else. Think deeply, and since you are a beginner, I am saying that take a little longer and deeper breath, and when you are taking the breath, feel that mental act. Feel that you are that Soham. The mantra for that breathing is Soham. I am that supreme reality. Soham, Soham. After the breathing, you just hold there. That is called Kumbhaka in yoga treatises. There you, not only the breath is to be made steady, but the mind has to think there in the same idea. I am that. I am that self-effulgent self, pure awareness. I am that. Soham, Soham. And then start excelling with the idea that I am not this body. I am not this body. I am not this body. Expel very forcefully this idea. This idea has to be expelled. The exhalation of the breath is just symbol. The thing that has to be expelled through exhalation is the wrong belief that I am body. Name deham. Name deham. Name deham. I am not body. I am not body. Exhale it, and after exhaling it, then external kumbha holding. There also again is by steady and feel Soham, Soham, Soham. Just practice this for few minutes. In future, I am thinking of starting a systematic series on this profound meditation for self-realization. So I will give detailed instructions, but today let's do this for 5 minutes as a token of our love and respect to Adi Shankara on the eve of his birth anniversary, the revered Guru, the world teacher, Let's practice that Nididhyasana, profound meditation. So, it should be silent, it should be silent. Deep within, think that you are that supreme reality and you are not body. This is the simplest thing, and that is what you have to feel deeply. You are that immortal, eternal self, supreme reality, non-dual reality. You are not this body, you are not this body. Think deeply within for 5 minutes. श्री जगद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। ओम श्री परमात्मने नमः। Thank you, all divine selves. May Lord bless you. May the divine self of the greatest master, Adi Shankara, help and inspire you to be established in your own blissful nature. And let's pray together that let peace prevail in the entire world. Let there be peace in the heart of each and every human being. Let that peace and bliss radiate and pervade every single human being, every single living being, every entity of the existence. Let them be in peace. Peace is our supreme goal. Peace is our ultimate bliss. And that supreme peace is realized and attained through